maybe let's start with a couple of teams who are unbeaten in the first 3 weeks of the regular season. Talking about Portland Thorns FC versus Houston Dash. This one coming down to a 1-1 draw between these two teams. And if memory serves me correctly, which it often doesn't, I think you and I both went Portland in this one.
We did. We both had
All right.
Thorns picking up 3 points in this one at home, right? Remember, it was at Providence Park, the only Friday game in the NWSL this weekend. But alas, no, it's a 1-1 draw.
It's you know, that's not to say it wasn't exciting.
Oh, yeah.
This delivered for me in terms of all of the NWSL after dark culture that's out there. I think this was a delightful game. We got to see two teams with I think a pretty recent rivalry, I would say, between these two teams. I think over the last maybe 3 seasons or so between the Thorns and between the Dash, we've seen some pretty fun and mostly highly competitive matches between these two teams. Some of the stuff that we touched on in the preview between these two teams in terms of how we leaned into our picks was part of that history between these two teams. I mentioned at one point that I'm going with Portland in this one to try to get the win, but maybe we think it's going to be a draw just because Houston has typically had some really good games against the Thorns at Providence Park. They have shown that they're a team that are not really intimidated about going on the road and picking up results when they need to be away from Houston. And I think we saw that pretty early on in a game like this. When we're looking at the actual score line of events that took place between these two teams, Portland Thorns on the scoreboard very early, a common trend for this team at this point in the regular season, 9th-minute goal, Sophia Smith to Crystal Dunn. We love a national team, club team crossover. What an opening goal for the Thorns in the 9th minute.
It was beautiful, honestly. The play from Sophia Smith, I mean, it was kind of like when you watch Sophia Smith, yes, she's got a lot of tricks in her bag that she can pull out, and she is incredibly skilled and talented, but she tends to do the same thing because why switch it up? It's continuing to work. She gets on the ball, she faces her defender, and she runs at them. I mean, it is incredibly hard to defend a quick Sophia Smith when she is running straight at you. She beats her defender. She gets end line. And in the past, we've seen Sophia Smith shoot this ball. And we've also seen her score this shot from a really closed down angle on the end line near that very near front post. However, in this 9th minute, her maturity and her awareness on the pitch is growing tremendously because you can see it in this opening goal for Portland. She gets her head up. She looks at the goals and see it's an option. Honestly, I bet she could have scored it, but she sees Crystal Dunn around the penalty spot near that near post wide open. And the awareness for Smith to play it to Dunn and then Dunn to find the back of the net is tremendous. That's why this Portland side is going to be much more dangerous this year than perhaps they were in the past because it's unpredictable what they're going to do on the ball. Like Smith could have shot that. She could have dribbled it herself and taken it. A number of different things coming down to it, but heck of a way for Portland to open this game. They set the tone right from the start. I mean, Houston putting up a very good fight. This was like one of the better games of this weekend for sure because of how competitive the battles were, individual 50-50 balls all over the pitch. And as you mentioned, I mean, 2 undefeated teams. For Houston, getting this draw and the form that Houston is in right now, this is the best start that Houston Dash has had any year that they have played in the NWSL. Now, standings wise, the Dash are in 6th, but they've got 2 draws and a win, 5 points on the year, only 1 goal differential point at that point. But I mean, the best start for Houston and going to Portland in Providence Park and picking up a draw after going down 1 goal and then saying, no more Sophia Smith, no more Crystal Dunn, Morgan Weaver. We're not letting you find the back of the net anymore. That is incredibly, incredibly impressive. Plus the response from Houston.
Loved it.
Incredible response.
I mean, look, we've got to talk about how it kind of came to life, right? I mean, Maria Sanchez getting the equalizer for this team right at the 24th minute. So an excellent moment of time to sort of go ahead and show their response in this one. We got to see, I think on both sides of the pitch, where we're looking at players that are also getting utilized within their starting 11s. Challenge Cup is on the horizon. So we're starting to see, we got to see maybe some newer faces for some teams across the league over week 3. And I think for Portland, we got to see that debut of Reina Reyes. And we saw Maria Sanchez go to work against her Mexican national teammate there. And I loved the presence of mind from this player when she gets on the ball. And you could see immediately like the wheels and the gears turning in her brain on how and where and which and what she's going to do with this ball at her feet. Wins this ball, off of a tackle from Reyes, and then Hubley tries to cover it in response, but just the quick thinking to go ahead and let this shot rip. It megs the defender in front of her and just slips in far post. I thought these 2 goals in this match were probably some of the better goals that we saw over the course of this weekend.
I would agree with you. They were tremendous goals, but Maria Sanchez, it was tough. So that's how the battle matched up, right? Reina Reyes got her first start in the outside right back position. Maria Sanchez, the left-sided forward for Houston. So they were marked up against each other for the majority of this game. And a lot of credit to Reyes, because I think that as a young rookie coming in, she played pretty well, but Maria Sanchez did make her look silly at times. There were moments when it was just a little bit too easy. And leading up to this goal for Houston Dash that ultimately came from Maria Sanchez in the 24th minute, there were so many more opportunities, even like right before it, right? From after Portland scored in the 9th minute, Houston definitely turned it up a gear or so, because then we got to see them switching the point of attack, which worked tremendously well for Houston. Sanchez getting on the ball, whipping crosses in, nearly finding Ordonez on a header goal. I mean, that's going to come this year. Once they get that down, the cross and the header into the goal, it's going to be lethal for Houston. But they didn't give up, and then Sanchez finds herself in the middle of the pitch. So it's not going to be a cross at this point, but how is she going to find the back of the net? Because her bread and butter is left-footed crosses with such great texture into the box. But this time she slots it away. I mean, really good goals to start our weekend for sure.
It just sort of felt like by the time halftime came, like both of these teams had fully played themselves into the match. There wasn't going to be like a period of time where they had to like come back into the second half and just sort of work back at it. They definitely picked up, I think, on where they left off in that first 45. And by the time it ended, it was like, oh, like both of these teams are definitely disappointed that they didn't get the win here. And you love it. You love to see that. I like it. I think the way this sort of early look at the table right now, sort of as we look back at last year a little bit as well. And, we know that these 2 teams were some of the playoff teams just in 2022. So to sort of see them continue to sort of build off of things and meet this early in the 2023 regular season. Who knows? Maybe it's a preview of something down the line. You love to see it. Let's keep it moving, though, because we've got a lot of games to get through. Let's talk about another draw that took place over the weekend. This time, we got a 4-goal fest for this one. I'm talking about Angel City FC versus Racing Louisville. Louisville on the road, go to Los Angeles, get up early in this game. I mean, very, very early. Penalty kick, VAR era. It's officially here in the league. Early penalty. Savannah DeMello in the box also gets up and converts. You have Racing Louisville go ahead and pull another go ahead goal in the first half, and it just sort of looks like, okay, like what's going to happen in a game like this? And for just a brief moment, I think watching this game, you have the sort of thought, well, yeah, Louisville. Good players, fun team.
That's what I thought.
Watch. You think about that, but what happened? You're talking like an absolute like tale of 2 halves here. I think in this game, when you're looking at the final stat line between these 2 teams. I'm just looking like one of the first things I went to as soon as the final whistle came in was the shot total. And you've got 25 on Angel City to 13 compared to Louisville, and the attempts on target with 7 for LA and then 2 for Racing. So it's
2 on target and 2 found the back of the net for Louisville.
We had, when we did the preview for these 2 teams,
the efficiency.
What were our picks when we did the preview for this one?
We both picked Racing Louisville. So as this game was unfolding, right, like the opening 10 minutes, opening 2 minutes, I'm like, great. DeMello draws a penalty kick. This is fantastic. Angel City is getting like they have committed so many penalty kicks. I feel like fouls inside the box or in BMO Stadium in Los Angeles. I feel like there have been so many VAR penalty kicks called there in the opening 3 weeks. But after the penalty kick goes in the opening 3 minutes, and then they get another one by Davis in the 32nd minute, I was like sitting pretty almost. I mean, like scoreline wise, right? I was like, great. We both picked Louisville. They came in here. They dominated, opening 2 goals before the 35th minute hits. Fantastic. But Angel City, I mean, you mentioned tale of two halves, but not necessarily in terms of like 45 minutes and 45 minutes. To me, it was a tale of like moments that were capitalized on, because as you said, Racing Louisville only 2 shots on target and they scored 2 goals in this game. So, hey, their efficiency is at 100% right now. That's pretty fantastic. However, at the end of this first half specifically, Angel City is now down 2-0. They're pissed off. You can see it. They're fired up, and that's where they're getting so many of these shots. Even in like the stoppage time of the game, I think there was like a couple minutes added on at the end of the first half. Excuse me, I do forget the details of that. But in that moment, Angel City probably had 3 or 4 opportunities with shots on goal, with shots putting them in dangerous spots, putting Racing Louisville defensively on their heels. And you could tell for Louisville, it was like, let's just get to the half. Let's just hold out and get to the half. And Angel City is throwing everything they can at them, trying to just get one before they go into the locker room at the break. And it ultimately, Racing Louisville holds out, and it's 2-0 at halftime.
Look, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this game actually comes down to depth for these two teams. And honestly, it comes down a little bit to coaching. And again, I can't believe I'm saying that in a game with Angel City and Racing Louisville. But I think when we look at this second half, that typical hour mark kind of change in the game, that you might make those adjustments if you're the coaching staff. But Allie Riley, Alyssa Thompson, and Madison Hammond able to come on in to the game for Angel City. And we don't see a sub for Racing until like the final 15 minutes remaining in the game, when Ari Borges comes in the 74th minute. And then even then 5 minutes later and 5 minutes later, more subs. So it just was like not enough for me in terms of the coaching adjustments that were made for Racing in this one. And I really sort of feel that this is what ends up, losing the full points. They walk away with the draw. And yes, this is a team that is currently one of the 3 to 4 teams they're unbeaten right now in the opening 3 weeks of the season. Racing Louisville with 3 official draws to start off the season. But I don't know if that's something that you want to hang your hat off in this point, because this is the same Racing Louisville side that had a ton of draws in 2022. And I think when you're going into this season, that's automatic. That is like the one thing you're highlighting and circling and saying, we're going to work on this. We're going to work on closing out games. We're going to work on making sure we're not dropping points anymore throughout 2023. That's 2022. This is a new year, new look for this team. But this is kind of a similar trend, I think, that we're witnessing, that we saw out of this team just back last year. So I think we sort of saw the international break in play kind of come into this game. I think for Racing, especially a team that has so many international players, right? So I think if you're Angel City, you're looking at this as like really great moment for the team to make sure that you sort of battle back and get a point, and make sure that someone doesn't come into your hometown and just take it to you. But apparently that's something about these two teams, that they're going to just sort of play to these kind of very wild type of scorelines, I guess, when they go head to head. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was very entertaining, frankly, and not just because of the scoreline, but because of the action and the chess match on the pitch about how they unfolded. Specific shout out to Angel City Savannah McCaskill, because this goal by her, the equalizing goal, it was the second one for Angel City. Holy cow. It was So good. I mean, like we've seen her do stuff like that before, but it comes in the 87th minute. She is at the top of the box. She controls it halfway and then uses a volley to find the back of the net. I mean, everyone on the pitch, Racing Louisville, Angel City, were like heads whipping, watching the ball go past as it ricocheted into the back of the net. It was beautiful, frankly. It was really, really a good goal from Savannah McCaskill. But standings wise, we talked about it in the preview. Racing Louisville, 9th place in the standings, 3 draws. I didn't want them to start their year. Technically, they're undefeated, but they're 3 draws in the opening 3 weeks. I wanted Louisville to get a win, but they can't hold out against Angel City. And in the end, Angel City climbs back into the game. I think really positive for Angel City, like you mentioned.